as well as do as well as do things. It was also my job to save for university. But although I made more money, I spent it just as quickly in the same way. My parents were excellent with money. My dad was a bus driver. He raised a family of 6. They bought their own home. So they were superstars with money. And they would always, not so much coach me, but point out where I wasn't succeeding and suggest there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't quite get this right. And I couldn't. And I convinced myself when I was a teenager, this is because I didn't have enough money. When I had enough money, when I had a full-time job, then I'd be a grown-up. Then I'd know how to deal with money. That didn't work. I got married as soon as I finished university. My wife, Jenny, who is the hero of this story, she had a full-time job. I had a full-time job as a student, but it still paid well. And I got money as a fellowship at the beginning of the year. And then Jenny and I were both paid 10 months of the year, which were the school months of the year. We were making worlds more money than we did before. And it were the same problems for us. But what was even more disastrous, we were now paid over 10 months rather than 12 months. Who would have thought that I could spend all that money by the end of 10 months and then be squirming around for 2 months trying to find money to pay the bills, which meant that I'm often leaving bills unpaid, going to the bank and to the store and having the embarrassing alarm go off on the payment machine that I had insufficient funds. I think it was loud enough in the day to let everybody in the store know. I paid all the household bills simply because I was the one who was around the house when the people came to install the various services. And so somehow it seemed natural that I would pay those bills. But I didn't have any system for organizing the bills that came in. So I paid them as I paid them, which was not regularly. So we were often getting notices that we were behind in payment. And we were regularly having services cut off, regularly having electricity, water, hydro cut off. That made it obvious to us that it was time for my wife to take over paying these bills. So we still had our own bank accounts and she would pay the bills. But the problem that had is that meant I was using my account pretty wanted, and the money used to keep us alive and fed and housed came out of her account. During this period, there'd be some bills she couldn't pay. So during this period, we almost lost our house because I was delinquent on our mortgage payments, not just 1 month, but like somehow this got several months out of the way because they'd send in warnings and I wouldn't get those bills, and they'd send in more and I wouldn't get those bills. So they kept sending me the same sort of announcements and I would lose them just like I had the first one. So we got into places where we had to be quite creative. There came a time where the municipality was going to repossess our house because we hadn't paid $2,500 in taxes. Didn't know they could do that, but I know that now. And that was a pretty protracted experience. So what this led us to realize is that I shouldn't have my own bank account, that we should have one joint bank account. All my money, as well as all Jenny's money, would go into one account and she would pay for everything and I would have my card. And what that did without further refinements, it meant that she could pay the bills and she had more money to pay the bills because she now had my account. But I still had a card. So I was still buying things and not really paying attention to what I was buying and not counting it up. And so she'd get into positions where all her money would be used well before the end of the month. And that wasn't working. So thankfully for online banking, Jenny switched to online banking where she can watch our bank account every single day. It'll say money that goes in, not enough, and money that goes out, more than should. But she could more importantly see what I was spending. And I had the freedom to spend the money I wanted, but as a family, we would discuss anything that was big. So I didn't spend things on big things, but I didn't have to consult her about going through a drive-through at a fast food place. But then that got out of hand because she pointed out to me fairly recently, we're 2 months into the pay period, drive through at fast food. Do you think this is sustainable? And I'm not entirely without intelligence, and so I said, yeah, I don't think it's sustainable. And so she would notice things like this, and she would bring me in line, and that had some success just because I knew she was watching. It just gave me that extra pause before I spent. I'd ask myself, do I need to spend this? Since I want to make her happy and I don't want to be broke, that was a fairly significant incentive to get it done right. But then recently, I was late to discover Amazon. Amazon's very easy to work, apparently. You just go online, you see what you want, and you click on it, and they deliver it to your house. So in 1 week, I had $1,400 worth of stuff delivered to the house. Parents would do this. And before I had ADHD, I'd say, like, what is wrong with me? Why do I do this? Why can I not get it together? These seems to be obvious things that I can do to change these habits. But I'm now in my 50s. I'm still doing the same thing. And one thing, at least, that I've learned from being in my 50s is at some point I've got to accept who I am and realize that these are habits I have, and just be more intentional about putting things in place to accentuate the good things and to mitigate the bad things. So for me, knowing that I have ADHD, I now have a measure of hope that with the medication, I have what I need to begin to get the coaching and the support to develop the practices of good financial management, which I hadn't before. And I think that's what was missing in what I had before. I didn't have adequate treatment, and I didn't have adequate support. And so with those two things, I have perhaps the most optimistic moment in my financial history right now, but I take it to be a lifelong struggle.
That's amazing. Thank you, Rob. And I think that's really, really valid what you said, because it's a lot of what a lot of people say. Dr. Jeeva always says that the two most important things as an adult with ADHD, you need a great career and you need a great partner. And you're very lucky you've got a great partner who's assisted you to get to where you are now. And with meditation and coaching, the sky's the limit. Thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob. We'll have Shukri now. Shukri is our South African local visit.
Not sure whether it was. No, I'm not. You got me on the spot. I'll try my best to shed some light on the challenges that definitely is there. And thanks very much for that, Rob. A lot of it resonated with me. I could see myself going through Amazon for sure. I still struggle with that even today. So I think I just made a quick list, and I looked at a couple of things that that I think is I've learned over the last few years. And that's really crucial. I think one of the most important things for me was the fact that I found out that I had ADHD, thanks to Dr. Jeeva, who was looking at my son. By the way, tested, put me through a test, and I turned out to be off the charts. But that helped me a lot in terms of framing where I am. So I think from a issue around financial implications of ADHD, there's one problem. Is that we are really, I find most friends of mine and myself typically, I'm really curious, right? So often when I look at something specific in business or in a business book or research specifically in one area, I would find something else that I come across as in the process. I would find that really, really interesting. And guess what? My brain almost instantly finds a use for that. So if I'm looking at, an article, or if I'm looking at, some type of software, and I come across a different piece of software, I can find almost a solution. I can find that as a solution for a client problem almost instantaneously, and it's not fake, it's real. I can find it, I can talk to the client, and the client would have it. The problem is, at that point in time, clients don't typically have the problem yet. They've spoken about it, but it's not the immediate thing. So there goes the money. I buy it so that I have it ready, and so my big spend is on small pieces of software, which is a great success in my life at the moment because I've purchased it, but I've purchased it 3 years ago. It's become a phenomenal success now. So if I look at the spend problem, it is how quickly and how easily I can find a use for the thing that I see and I want to buy, but I shouldn't really actually be looking for a use for something that I don't own. I should just carry on. But it's really, really hard. And I have a way of overcoming that now, but typically I go around it. The other problem that I find is it's an even bigger problem, is that with me all through my life and even now in my processing, when I see that I need to spend something that will use money that I have, it should put a fear in me that I'm going to run out of money, but it doesn't, because it's so easy to generate cash. It's it's easy to find new applications, new ways of so always coming. The problem is keeping it. That's the biggest issue. So it is always coming, and it should be going to specific things like paying the electricity, paying bills. The problem that I find that happens is that there's always that the trigger to spend more and more is driven by the fact that there's always the expectation that other cash is going to come, and lo and behold, it does if you focus on it. The cure to that, or the solution to that, obviously, is, like Rob has explained, is to take the money out of your hand. Right? That I've found is a great way of just stopping this old sort of almost a frenzy of finding things, finding solutions, where it can be used, why it's compelling, why it will be great value. The way to stop that is just an inability to spend it. You don't have access to the money, and what I've been fortunate, I've actually through trial and error, I've been able to have a partner in my business who's a straight face. There's no emotion when it comes to this. Great guy, great coach and everything. When it comes to spending, there has to be somebody that says no. Don't need it. What do you need it for? What's the worst thing that will happen if you don't purchase it? Then there's another problem that one has to look out for, is that I find ways around it. So I can all the money can be with him, and some not, or I can find another way. So typically, what I think just to tie all of this together, what I find is that as an ADHD person, there's you know, person that with an ADHD brain, there's typically not massive amounts of issues with having, you know, being very effective and getting great work and getting generating money. I think our biggest problem often lies in the fact that we don't keep that. And sometimes we try too hard to make ourselves keep that, you know, get better at keeping and spending and saving. It's really, really hard. I think you're better at giving that job to someone else out of your control and focus your mind on generating the cash and then enjoying as you see the money grow. I think that was something that I really enjoyed. Of course, I found a way to get it back, get it out of there.
Yeah, we're going to tighten up on the time, okay?
That's basically I'm also sort of out. I think the key issue then just is just, you know, just take out the ability to spend from if it is a problem.
So the summary of what he said is ADHD know very well how to make money. You never starve. You know where to get a plate of food. Everybody likes you and you like everybody, and you know how to wheel and deal. So you'll always make a lot. But it won't stay in your hand. It will go through your fingers. It comes out here. It goes away. It doesn't stay there. And that is our biggest issue. Okay, now we'll go on to the next thing. As I told you, one of the world's best ADHD and money coach is Stephanie Sarkis. And this is a video clip by Stephanie Sarkis. So let me just share the screen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Sarkis. I'm the author of 3 books on adult ADD.
Tracy, how do I share this? It's not, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you change that? Tracy? Tracy?
Okay, go, Dr. J. You should be able to share.
Including ADD in your. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Sarkis. I'm the author of 3 books on adult ADD, including ADD and Your Money, which I co-authored with a finance expert. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how ADD affects your finances. First, people with ADD have a higher rate of credit card debt. They have more late fees on bills because they don't pay them on time. They have a lower credit score. They pay a higher interest rate on loans because of their lower credit score. They have a hard time finding their financial documents, especially tax papers. They may file their taxes late or not at all. They may have difficulties with impulse spending, going into the store and buying way more things than they intended, having money arguments with their spouse. And money is the #1 argument among spouses, but with ADHD, that's kind of increased because of the impulsive spending issue. So those are some of the things that people with ADD face money-wise. One of the things I recommend is getting the help of financial professionals, having somebody to help you get your money organized, get your money on an online banking system where you can have automatic deposit and automatic withdrawals so your bills aren't late. Also, having somebody just help you set up your money in some money management software so you can easier keep track of your finances. And then just having an assistant to help you go through papers and get organized so you know where your financial documents are. And you may say to yourself, well, that's going to cost me some money, but in the long run, the truth is that you're actually going to save money because you're no longer paying late fees. You're going to be paying a lower interest rate on your loans because you have a higher credit score, because you're more organized and you have more of a handle on where your money's going. As far as impulse spending, it helps to have somebody go shopping with you that can kind of look over your cart before you check out and go, do you really need that? Is that something you want or something you need? You need somebody that will gently do that so you can kind of get an idea of what you're spending and what you maybe should be curbing your spending on. So again, getting professionals to help you out, also getting somebody to go shopping with you are the 2 ways that I would recommend to help yourself when you have money issues and ADD. And that's just one of many solutions that are out there. So if you have money issues, again, the book's ADD and Your Money, and hopefully it'll help you set a new path for your financial success.
All right, so Stephanie Sarkis, as I said, She is, where's, how do we, okay, new share. All right. Screen sharing has failed.
Okay. You should be able to.
Okay, so there's the name Stephanie, www.stephaniesarkis.com if you want to get an international coach to help you about money. Okay, and these are some of the questions. What are the options if a person is deeply in debt? What are some ways to curb impulsivity? Because the triangle of ADHD is impulsivity, overactivity, hyperactivity, and inattention. So it's the impulsivity that gets us to Amazon, and the impulsivity makes us buy things, and impulsivity makes us forget that we spend, but we don't have the money. How should people deal with credit cards? And as Hallowell says, put it in a freezer and freeze it away so that you can't use it when you really want to use it. What are the long-term consequences of being impulsive with money? Rob told us a lot about that. And is there hope for ADHD people? And Stephanie Starker says, we have a higher rate of debt than the general population, and we know that. And unfortunately, it affects relationships a lot. The main problem in relationships today is not sex, it's money. And unfortunately, with retrenchment and people being laid off, sometimes the female spouse is still working and the male spouse is not working, and it causes a lot of problems. It brings up Mr. Nanny and other things. So money, money is a very big problem in relationship. Then, as the Buddha said, Jirmakar of financial papers. That's the main thing. When you have an accountant that's helping you, he puts everything in order, but we just leave everything everywhere. And when it comes to tax time, we're trying to find it and we can't find it. Then what about investments? We like to spend our money today, not for the future. So we are not saving for the future. And perpetually we're paying late fees and non-payment for bills. And sometimes you tend to even spend more on late fees than the actual price of the object. Example, I remember when I was in Canada, I used to rent movies, videos in those days, and used to get 2 for the price of 1. So 1 was free. But I'd keep it for about 10 days, so I'd pay so much a penalty, it was more than both movies if you rented it separately. And little did I realize what I was doing. And of course, with all these problems, we have a lowest credit score, and then we want a mortgage, and we are turned down. And of course, a very high percentage of bankruptcy are people who have ADHD that spend not in a very accurate way. So why do we have so much problem with all this? This is Stephanie Sarkis's work. She says it's a lot of detail oriented, and ADHD don't like detail. And secondly, we don't like to balance our checkbook. We just want to write out checks without balancing. And we need some planning for the future, like investing and saving and getting more organized. And definitely we have to see between the 2 spouses who's better in math or adding and subtracting. And maybe some of it is genetic. Our parents didn't look after money. So maybe that is, but ADHD is highly genetic too. So I don't know if the genes of the parents or genes of ADHD. So we need career counseling services. I was asking Tracy earlier, we have an organization here, Financial Fitness in Johannesburg. They do credit counseling services. And many times they help you, and most times you're very happy. Other times they help you to go into bankruptcy instead of paying thousands of rands. It's not the end of your life. You can get out of it. These people know, they see this every day, okay? And they work out a payment plan, and then they check your credit report, and they help you with all these things. And bankruptcy is a last resort. But they will advise you what you can still keep when you're bankrupt. I think you can still keep your car and your house or something like that. I don't know, the rules change all the time. But these are, some of them are attorneys and some of them are paralegal workers. So this is, Stephanie Sarkis says, if you're buying anything over $100, you got to wait for 24 hours before you buy it. And you go shopping with a non-impulsive friend. Now, online shopping, there's no friend, so you just do it without your friend. So unfortunately, go shopping off hours when it's not too busy and you're fighting. Stop and look through your cart before you check out. Stick only to items on your list. Know the difference between needs, what you need, and what you want. So needs, as she says, is essential for survival. Definitely food, water, clothing, shelter, and human contact. Wants are extras. You can survive without them, but it may not be fun. So DSTV, cable, internet, these days we need it. Entertainment during COVID, there's no entertainment. And spa treatment is relative. So I don't know if the spas are open at this time. So we got to get organized. We need to know a drawer where to keep it. If you don't have files or anything, just have one drawer that you open and you just throw all the papers in there. And end of the year, you take the drawer out and you can work it out. So know where to keep it and where to toss it. Don't throw it in the garbage. And do as much as you can online. That means you can have monthly payments. You can have alerts. You can have withdrawals. Everything. Today, the banks help you very much. Excuse me. If you do a lot online, that means there's not much paper lying around. There's less clutter. And today there's money management software like Quicken and Money, and there's different ones. And I always thought I'd like to learn how to use them. And use colored hanging file folders. So you can have one folder for your mortgage, one folder for household expenses, different things. And use a receipt scanner. That means if you have a receipt, scan it. So even if you lose it, most likely you will, or you can't find it, it is in a scan. So everything, make a habit of keeping things on your computer or scan it or keep it on the cloud. So those are some good ways. The other thing is you got to use your credit cards responsibly. So you got to try and pay it off, not just the minimum payment. I know sometimes you don't have money because credit card, the interest rate is 22 to 28% and it's too high. Online purchases, you have to see if you have, by the time the credit card comes through, will you have the money? Okay. And you need a credit card that's not connected to your bank account because they'll take the money out first before you can stop it. So you need two separate things. You can get credit on your credit card, but the bank account, if it's connected, it will just automatically go out of your account. And if you don't have money and you don't have overdraft, it's a problem. Never use debit card for online purchases. That means the money is going right through from your account. And you want to have the time with the credit card at least 4 weeks and things like that. You got to lower your credit limit because you think you got $10,000 to rent to spend, but you don't have that money because you at the end of the month, you only left with 5,000. So how do you get the money? This is about money and relationships and how your wife or yourself as a male spouse, how you brought up in a home, how you valued money, and big purchases you got to decide together. And beware of sneaky spending. They buy all gadgets or they buy dresses and that, whatever. So you maybe keep separate accounts. Make sure your partner has access to in the event of emergency. Put the organized person in charge of the finances, but still have the rights and access. So most ADHD people, they marry obsessive compulsive spouses who become their mothers and control them, but they know how to look after money. Of course, ADHD won't know. So unfortunately, you have to give them the power or the control if you don't want. So financial professionals, I told you that I know Financial Fitness is in Johannesburg. They can help you. So we'll skip this. And if you don't manage your thing, what difficulties will you have in your life? You might have to work longer than you intended. It lowers your credit score again, so you can't buy extra house or something for investment, and can result in higher interest rates on loans, being turned down for loans. Family members may not be able to find financial documents in a crisis if somebody dies. So this is our sickness all the time. Is there hope? Yes, there is hope. There is Financial Fitness. They can help you to streamline all your things, but they can also help you if there is a need to go bankrupt. So you shouldn't be afraid. It's not the end of your life, but we have had many patients many years ago when I was training as a psychiatrist, that committed suicides because they had no more money. They were bankrupt and they didn't know that there's organizations and people that can take you out of it and they can help you. But yes, it's a big stress and it can contribute heavily to depression and even suicide. So these are the books that Sally Sarkar, that we're talking about, Sarkar, has written on ADHD and money, and you can write it down or take a picture if you want any of these. And You can see she talked about 10 simple solutions to adult ADD, making the grade with ADD, ADD and your money, very simple. Then adult ADHD, a guide for the newly diagnosed. So then in the bank, they can help you. The financial fitness people will help you definitely. And and the coaches will help you, whichever way you want it, but you need some organization because we have a high risk of not having money in our hand or having money for investment and we just spend it foolishly. The other thing, ADHD, because of the high dopamine level, we have a need to feel good, to feel nice, to feel lekker. Now, if you want to feel lekker, then you like nice things. So nice things means nice clothes, nice foods, first class flights, all nice things. And they cost money. So when the time comes, we don't think that we're going to pay for it later on. We just buy it and we just use it. And so ADHD have a very flowery, great lifestyle. And they might have earned a lot and not kept a lot, but in the end of to the latter part of their life, they don't have much to show. Whereas an obsessive compulsive person wouldn't spend much and will be very stingy, will count every penny, but at the end of their life, they have lots more money than what the ADHD ever made in his life. So that is the sad thing. So you need an obsessive compulsive person, an ADHD person, you join them up and cut them in half, and maybe then you get the perfect person. So thank you very much. Let's take some questions. And then lastly, we'll show you Hallowell's video.
So would anybody like to ask any questions? Just type it in, or we can put your hand up and we can unmute you. Okay, so Liesel says, in general, I'm generally good with my money, paying loans in time. Money is there for debit orders. My mom always told me to pay for the roof over my head first. Some years back, I noticed my shopping habits got out of hand, and I have a great friend that went shopping with me, and we teased to say she is my conscience. I'm also aware of gambling addiction, so I stay away from casinos. Recently, I started spending money online, buying and selling shares, had some success and lost everything. I realized sometime later that this was just another way of gambling. All right. I can recommend unsubscribing from all email offerings, discount products like Take a Lot, One Day Deal, Mr. Price. Agree. Completely agree. What is the difference between getting help from a coach versus a therapist? So if I have to speak from the life skills coaching, I'm ADHD, and my coaches, a lot of the coaches that are part of this are ADHD. We teach skills. So it's not about, like a therapist is, if you look at a psychologist, the psychologist deals with why are you like this. We say you are like this. What skills and tools do you need to think differently, which will make you do things differently, which will create different behavior. So we're very skill focused.
Tracy, we've got Rob and Bandile who have questions if you want to unmute them.
Okay, sure. Let's go here. Bandile, let's go.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk. This is a very important talk. My question comes from the fact that I've realized in my own life, a lot of my money is spent because because of the relationships that I'm in. So, you know, family members and friends and things like that. But with ADHD, it's sometimes very hard to manage your relationships effectively. So just on that part, how do you like saying no to people, you know, making sure people aren't taking advantage of you, those sorts of things. Are there any comments on that side of it?
So what does no mean to you? This is such an amazing question. What does no mean? N-O.
Yeah, it can't be that, but I think often I've found that if someone lends me money, I kind of don't, if someone asks me for money, I won't think carefully about whether I've got it. Just, you know, I have executive function overload and I just say, okay, cool, I'll figure it out later. And then you find at the end of the month or after 3 or 4 times, you know, someone's maybe lent 1,000 Rand from me and I just have not kept track of that. But also, there's that other element of being a people pleaser.
Yes.
You know, you often rely on other people's kindness and grace towards you. As a coping mechanism, you don't like disappointing other people, even though sometimes you have to disappoint them. So that's just one.
So the thing is the RSD. So 90% of people with ADHD have RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria. We become people pleasers. And that's a skill we can learn if you understand. Hey, Dr. J, with the
Yes.
RSD, it's
Definitely.
90% people. It's
Go on a bit louder.
So it's very big with ADHD people. 90% of us have RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria. We become people pleasers. So we've got to learn, it's our perception we don't want to be rejected. We want to be accepted, and we become this people pleaser. But that's a skill the coaching can teach you. That no is just actually a 2-letter word. It doesn't mean you're not nice. It doesn't mean you're unkind. It doesn't mean you are a horrible person or selfish. It just means I'm not able to.
If I can just add to that as another brown person, yeah, I think it's also a very cultural thing that we don't learn the ability to say no, and from a young age, I think we guilted also into we associate a lot of what's this quality or what we bring to the family in order to be useful or treasured if we're able to help a brother out in the family. So I think with those skills, there's a bit of unlearning that we need to do. Like Tracy said, what does no mean to you? I think that's where the unlearning comes before we learn the skills, is that that meaning that we attach to the word no is very, very important. And like you mentioned yourself, it's the source of where we derive our worth as people, in that with the people pleasing, we think that if we don't, then that's when we end up guilting ourselves. So that's the bit of unlearning that we have to do culturally as well.
Does that help you, Bandili?
Yes. I think I need to. When you said RSP, I thought, hey, actually, that's actually what I should be thinking about. So I'll do a bit of
something
thinking.
we can focus on in sessions to come. We can focus on RSD because it is really big with ADHD people.
No, but if you send us your email or WhatsApp, we can send you articles on RSD, simple, nice articles, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Rob's hand is up as well.
Okay, let's go to Rob. Let's unmute you, Rob. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Can you hear me now?
We can,
Yes.
thank you.
Hello? I really appreciate that last discussion. It was very substantial. By comparison, I have a sort of a technical financial question. Dr. Jeeva said that when we're doing purchases online, we should get off using, say, our bank card that goes directly to our bank account and I guess use a credit card. My understanding was that, or the motivation for us is to connect it to our bank account. So that way we're using money we have, as opposed to the credit card where we're using money we don't have. Have I got that wrong?
No, if you use a credit card, you still have 4 weeks to pay for it and you can work it out. But once you use a debit card, the money goes out of your account. You can't put it back in, you can't get it back. So it protects you in that way. Whereas with a credit card, you can still fight with your wife in a few days' time and sort it out. But debit card is cash, it's really gone.
Just for the South Africans that are here as well, I see a lot of the banking features via your banking app. You can actually add on a virtual card where you can place your own limits on it. So if you're worried about the credit card with the limitless feature, then you can, in Canada, you can create a virtual card where you can actually limit the spending.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions we can answer for you? You're good. Okay, Dr. J, if you want to carry on.
We're going to bring up Dr. Hallowell again.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we go back to questions if there's any left over.
Thanks, Dr. J.
I add ADHD and money. because most of us
Ned
have too
Hallowell.
much of the first and therefore not enough of the second.
When it comes to money in ADD, I've seen two basic patterns. One, some people with ADD are absolute financial wizards.
This is Dr. Hallowell, is the father of ADHD, okay?
I happen to treat a lot. When it comes to money in ADD, I've seen two basic patterns. One, some people with ADD are absolute financial wizards. I happen to treat a lot of people in the money business, the investment bankers, and you think of them as not being ADD types. Quite the opposite. Some of them are absolute financial wizards. They can zip zap. They have incredible insight into investments. They do it by intuition, and they're phenomenally wealthy people. And they say, I've marshaled the power in the ADD. You know, it's my Ferrari engine, and I've learned the brakes. And they're fantastic, and they attribute their success to this trait. Then on the other side are people like me who are sort of allergic to accounting, you know, and I just can't do it. You know, I avoid it. The whole topic of money makes me just, I just want to get to something else. I actually talking about the psychology of money, the actual nuts and bolts of financial life, I'm inept. And so what I've learned, thankfully, is to farm it out. At home, my wife takes care of it, and then we have financial advisors. You know, and I think, and they're not that expensive. So if you're saying I can't afford that, you can afford that, or at least to get your spouse to do it, or somebody else. If you're bad at it, get it out of your control. You know, because there are people with ADD who are living in financial hell because they didn't dare delegate, or they were too proud to delegate. They're 10 years behind in paying their taxes. They're way over their head in debt. And they're continuing to overspend because they won't get rid of their credit cards. You know, by the way, speaking of credit cards, the most brilliant intervention I ever heard of, a patient of mine came up with on our own. She was a typical ADDer with a habit of impulsively overspending. And she took my advice and got a financial advisor. And the financial advisor, first session, said, get rid of those credit cards. And she said, I don't want to get rid of them. So what did she do? She took her credit cards and put them in a bowl of water, and put the bowl of water in the freezer. So they would be there if she really needed them, but they wouldn't be available for impulse spending. So that's the kind of creative adaptation. But basically, if you're someone with ADD who numbers don't come easily, you know, accounting doesn't come easily, planning, financial planning doesn't come easily. If you tend to spend impulsively, then you need to get the tools out of your hands in order to avoid financial disaster.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what goes on, why we, you know, somebody said the definition of disaster is an ADDer with the home shopping network and 3 credit cards. What is the, maybe just talk a little bit about the payoff, the brain and the chemical or whatever.
No, we are the ultimate Pavlovian, you know, we see a reward, we want it. We're fire ready aim. You know, oh, diamond necklace, I want that. 3 a.m., here's my credit card. You know, trip to the Caribbean, that's good, here's my credit card. See, the credit cards facilitate the whole thing. It's like funny money. We don't think we're really spending it, we're just giving a number. If we had to shell out cash, we wouldn't do it. But you see the trip to the Caribbean, and all you have to do is give them a credit card number. Next thing you know, we do that over and over again. The bill comes in, you said, $10,000? Where did I spend $10,000? Then you look down this depressing list of $300 purchases adding up to $10,000, you know, so you got to get the card out of your hands, and either your spouse or somebody to be your financial advisor. It's life and death, not life and death, but it's high stakes poker, that's for sure, because you can create a financial prison that takes decades to get out of.
For me, Ava kept pushing me to hand stuff to her accountant, and finally I gave in. But I got to what it was fun. The core issue was I was worried about trusting someone else. Like, what if they rip me off? What if they, and so on. So There's a connection with trust.
No. It makes me think of it's a totally different example, but when people talk about the side effects of medication, I say, fine, we can talk about that, but let's also talk about the side effects of not taking the medication. So you're worried about the side effects of delegating. What are the side effects of not delegating? So, say, well, what if he rips me off? What if he's not good? Okay, well, let's deal with all of those. But look what happens when I don't delegate. I'm relying on myself, who is incompetent to do it, demonstrably so. So let's take me out of the equation and then find the right advisor, the person I will trust. And you got to trust someone. I mean, this notion of control, anyone who says their goal in life is to be independent ought to have his head examined. The goal is to be effectively interdependent. No one can be totally independent. No man is an island, effectively interdependent. I delegate what I'm bad at and I do what I'm good at. I say people, you ought to operate in your sweet spot. Your sweet spot I define as what you're really good at, what you love to do, and what someone will pay you to do. Where those three intersect, that's your sweet spot. You want to delegate the rest. Or CDE is another one of my favorite. Curtail, delegate, eliminate. Curtail, delegate, eliminate. And when it comes to financial management, if you're bad at it, delegate it. Delegate it.
So we have some time, and we're going to take questions. But before question, Dr. Hallowell said so many things in a short time. So I'm going to put it on again. It's only 5 minutes.
I asked Ned about ADHD and money, because most of us have too much of the first and therefore not enough of the second.
When it comes to money in ADD, I've seen two basic patterns. One, some people with ADD are absolute financial wizards. I happen to treat a lot of people in the money business, the investment bankers, and you think of them as not being ADD types. Quite the opposite. Some of them are absolute financial wizards. They can zip zap. They have incredible insight into investments. They do it by intuition, and they're phenomenally wealthy people. And they say, I've marshaled the power in the ADD. It's my Ferrari engine, and I've learned the brakes. And they're fantastic, and they attribute their success to this trait. Then on the other side are people like me who are sort of allergic to accounting, and I just can't do it. I avoid it. The whole topic of money makes me I just want to get to something else. I actually enjoy talking about the psychology of money, the actual nuts and bolts of taking care of my financial life. I'm inept. And so what I've learned, thankfully, is to farm it out. At home, my wife takes care of it, and then we have financial advisors. And I think and they're not that expensive. So if you're saying I can't afford that, you can afford that, or at least to get your spouse to do it or somebody else. If you're bad at it, get it out of your control. Because there are people with ADD who are living in financial hell because they didn't dare delegate, or they were too proud to delegate. They're 10 years behind in paying their taxes. They're way over their head in debt, and they're continuing to overspend because they won't get rid of their credit cards. By the way, speaking of credit cards, the most brilliant intervention I ever heard of, a patient of mine came up with on her own. She was a typical ADDer spending, and she took my advice and got a financial advisor. And the financial advisor, first session, said, get rid of those credit cards. And she said, I don't want to get rid of them. So what did she do? She took her credit cards and put them in a bowl of water, and put the bowl of water in the freezer. So they would be there if she really needed them, but they wouldn't be available for impulse spending. So that's the kind of creative adaptation. But basically, if you're someone with ADD who numbers don't come easily, accounting doesn't come easily, financial planning doesn't come easily. If you tend to spend impulsively, then you need to get the tools out of your hands in order to avoid financial disaster.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what goes on, why we, somebody said the definition of disaster is an ADDer with the home shopping network and 3 credit cards. What is maybe just talk a little bit about the payoff the brain and the chemical or whatever.
No, we are the ultimate Pavlovian, you know, we see a reward, we want it. We're fire ready aim. You know, oh, diamond necklace, I want that. 3 a.m., here's my credit card. You know, trip to the Caribbean, that sounds good. Here's my credit card. You see, the credit cards facilitate the whole thing. It's like funny money. We don't think we're really spending it. We're just giving a number. If we had to shell out cash, we wouldn't do it. But you see the trip to the Caribbean, and all you have to do is give them a credit card number. Next thing you know, we do that over and over again, where the bill comes in, you said, $10,000? Where did I spend $10,000? And then you look down this depressing list of $300 purchases adding up to $10,000, you know, so you got to get the card out of your hands and either your spouse or somebody to be your financial advisor. It's life and death, not life and death, but it's high stakes poker, that's for sure, because you can create a prison that takes decades to get out of.
For me, Ava kept pushing me to hand stuff to her accountant, and finally I gave in. But I got to what it was finally. The core issue was I was worried about trusting someone else. Like, what if they rip me off? What if they, and so on. So there's a connection with trust.
No. It makes me think of it's a totally different example, but when people talk about the side effects of medication, I say, fine, we can talk about that, but let's also talk about the side effects of not taking the medication. So you're worried about the side effects of delegating. What are the side effects of not delegating? So you know, saying, what if he rips me off? What if he's not good? What if, okay, well, let's deal with all those. But look what happens when I don't delegate. I'm relying on myself, who is incompetent to do it, demonstrably so. You know, so let's take me out of the equation and then find the right advisor, the person I will trust. And you got to trust somebody. I mean, this notion of control, you know, spot I define as what you're really good at, what you love to do, and what someone will pay you to do. Where those three intersect, that's your sweet spot. You want to delegate the rest. Or CDE is another one of my favorite. Curtail, delegate, eliminate. Curtail, delegate, eliminate. And when it comes to financial management, if you're bad at it, delegate it. Delegate it.
So it talks about curtail, cut down your expenses, delegate somebody else, an accountant or bookkeeper, whoever you like, can do that. And lastly, eliminate all the extra expenses. But on the other side, he made a good little statement there that the things you're good at, the things you love, and the things that people pay you, you should focus on that, not the things that we are usually weak at, like spending money. Okay, Tracy, take it over for questions, please.
Thank you, guys, for joining us. Is there any questions you'd like us to answer for you?
Just mention about the next talk about work with.
So our next talk is going to be, we actually wanted to do ADHD and money and work, but it was too full today. So we're next going to do ADHD and work. So we'd love you to join us next time. Any questions, you're welcome to email me before so we can make sure we answer them before we have the session. But any questions now we can answer, please just pop into the chat box. But thank you for joining us, and I hope it helped you. And if you have a recording of this, please let me know and I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks everybody, and I hope you have a good evening and take care. Be safe out there and all the rest. So next question, how do I disclose my ADHD? Very good question. Bandidi, I think we definitely need to cover that. Thank you, we will. Thank you for that, guys.
See you next time.
Cheers, bye. Thank you.